Are we all good to go? Do you want me to do a sound check quickly?
Yeah, all good to go.
Okay. Excellent. Well, wonderful to be here today at Australia Zoo. We were talking yesterday about Australia Zoo. I feel like I grew up watching the Irwins on TV, so it's so wonderful to have this portfolio, to be able to work with such passionate conservationists. We of course know that koalas are some of our most loved iconic species, and so it's really important that we're working together to protect a species that's so important to Australia. We have provided through our community sustainability action grants around $600,000 to 7 organisations to help conduct research to try and make sure that we can protect these much loved species. And I'm really pleased today to say that around $90,000 will be provided to Australia Zoo for them to conduct a collar and monitor program, which I might let Terry talk a little bit more about, but it's really about making sure that we're monitoring those koalas when they are released back into the wildlife. We want to make sure that we can continue to conduct that important research so we can continue to preserve and protect these species long term. Particularly on the Sunshine Coast though, the Sunshine Coast University has also received $98,000 to undertake vaccines. We know that chlamydia is one of the biggest challenges facing the koala population, so being able to vaccinate these animals is incredibly important, and they'll be doing this work in partnership with some of our wildlife hospitals, like right here at Australia Zoo. So it's a great collaboration amongst 2 really important conservation groups here on the Sunshine Coast and a number of other organisations throughout Queensland. We're working with traditional owners, conservation groups, wildlife hospitals and universities to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect these koala species. I might throw over to Terry to say a couple of words around this particular program, and then I'm happy to take some questions if that works.
It's okay, Brandy. Thank you so much, Minister. This is an incredible and wonderful moment in time when we're actually going to be dedicating some funds to learning more about what happens to the koalas that come into our care at our Australia Zoo Wildlife Hospital and then are released back into the wild. So it's important for our Chief of Staff, Dr. Rosie Booth, to be able to determine how well the koalas are doing, to see the effects of the vaccines that we're giving koalas that have recovered from chlamydia, and to also consider the fact that our areas are becoming more and more urbanized, and there's less corridors and treat areas for koalas. So we need to better plan on how to support these beautiful animals. They are an icon species, and in addition to protecting koalas, we'll be protecting complete ecosystems that sustain a lot more than just koalas, although they're pretty special. So I'm very thankful for the Minister's attention to the work that we're doing, that the Sunshine Coast University is doing, and so many other groups. And this funding is going to make a huge difference. So thank you, Minister.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
Can you go through exactly what the funding will assist with?
Yeah, so I can give you a breakdown of all of the different groups that will be receiving funding. The funding that's being provided to the University of Sunshine Coast will work with koalas that are coming into the wildlife hospitals. Around 500 vaccines will be provided, but it's really also about monitoring those koalas once they leave as well, because we know that they need a lot of care in that period where they're getting that vaccination and then are released back into the wild. We've also got funding going to Kayak, which is a traditional owner organisation. We've got funding going towards conservation groups as well. So there's a lot of different areas that we want to focus on, and this money will really give us a good snapshot of some of the research that's been conducted across particularly that southeast Queensland area where Terry just mentioned we're seeing a lot of urban development, which we know impacts our koala population, but of course so does the chlamydia disease as well. So there's a range of pockets of money and research areas that we're really keen to see the outcomes of.
Why is this so important to you, and why now for funding?
So this is part of our Community Sustainability Action Grant program. So there's been a number of rounds of this program already, and there will be future rounds as well. We of course know that the koala population unfortunately has been declining, and so that's why we want to see money directed into research to see how we can better protect this important species.
Can you explain what chapter they are? why it's important that we focus on chlamydia as opposed to perhaps other things that are threatening?
Yeah, look, we know, there's a range of things that are impacting our koala population. Unfortunately, chlamydia, we know the spread is incredibly large. We've been talking a lot about COVID-19 spread, but for the koala population, it's the chlamydia disease. So the more that we can make sure we get that vaccination process right, we can start to slow down the spread of that disease and hopefully see an increase in our population size of koalas. Unfortunately, chlamydia particularly impacts the fertility of koalas. So that's what's seeing that reduction in the amount of koala population we're seeing, particularly in southeast Queensland. But as has been mentioned as well, urban development is also an issue, which is why in the last term of government we brought forward the strongest koala protections that Queensland has ever had. So we're going to continue working with conservation groups, universities, to make sure that we're doing what we can to protect, a really loved animal here in Australia.
And how much of an impact will it make? Like, will it sustain the current numbers, or will it just slow down that decrease you mentioned?
Look, we would, love to see, of course, the continuation of, we'd love to see an increase of the koala population, but we need to make sure that we're slowing down the reduction to begin with. As I said, chlamydia is one of the biggest issues that we're facing. So if we can start to really address the population decrease we're seeing, hopefully then we will start to see an increase. But, I think our focus right now needs to just be stopping that decline in the koala population.
Do you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? Sure. Thank you.
Brandy thinks that might be her brother. She's like, whoa, he's thinner than I remember.
So tell me, Terry, how important is this grant to Australian Zoo?
This grant is incredibly important because we have such a full complement of staff that are treating with the urgent needs of koalas, from getting hit by cars, attacked by dogs, and of course the chlamydia disease. So there really isn't a lot of extra funds or extra people available to do this work, and the funding can then ensure that we're able to track koalas to see the success rate of re-releasing them and to see what happens when they come into those conflicts again. So some of these areas that are developed, koalas are now having to cope with golf courses and school grounds and things that weren't there before. And if we can better assist developments with how to include corridors and perhaps in gated communities to make maximum sizes for pets so we don't have big dogs running loose and causing problems. These sort of considerations are things that we've always had anecdotally, but to be able to prove and demonstrate what the very real considerations are for protecting koalas, this is very important research.
So is there already a tracking program in place through Australia Zoo, or will this be the first?
There has been some tracking that's gone on in the past, but this will specifically address the considerations that are happening with koalas that are coming in sometimes 5, 6, 7 times from the same areas. So we want to see how to better protect them long term and also engage the community. So it's really important for people to be proud to know they have koalas in their neighborhood and know what they can do to help protect them as well. Because while Brandy lives at Australia Zoo, her cousins come through this hospital and need to have the community care and attention to make sure that every individual with a backyard is doing something proactive to help.
To explain it all, how exactly does the chlamydia impact them physically, and how is it killing them?
So chlamydia is a sexually transmitted disease, and it causes things like infertility. It can cause a thickening of the bladder so they reach a point where they can't urinate properly. It causes conjunctivitis in their eyes, and they get to the point where they're actually blind. So when they come in, usually it's because they've become so ill, they're finally sitting at the bottom of a tree and not doing well. So if we can turn that around, it's usually a case of antibiotics and treatment for about 6 to 8 weeks, and then they have to recover from the antibiotics interfering with their gut flora, and that'll take another 6 to 8 weeks for them to recover. And then we've been feeling kind of a sense of despair putting them back out to potentially catch it again. So now with the University of the Sunshine Coast and other universities participating in vaccine trials, we have a very real opportunity to start diminishing chlamydia. We saw chlamydia go from being a problem to actually exceeding the numbers of koalas we're seeing attacked by dogs or hit by car. It's now becoming a #1 problem for populations. And you have to keep in mind it's especially prevalent when a koala is stressed. So if they are in a situation where there's a development going on, you may see a more chlamydia spread in an area where they're stressed out. So we need to take all these things into consideration for their protection.
I've just been asked to ask you how is Vinny going with the novel away?
Sure.
I won't say she's massive this time.
Yeah.
We all knew how that went.
Yeah. Good plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's glowing. That's the word I'm going with now.
Yes. Robert thinks she's glowing.
Can we actually get Robert on this?
Sure.
Yes, Robert.
Hello.
Robert,
Yeah,
tell us
I
about
know
it.
what you. Well, I'm going to choose my words very carefully here.
Great brother.
She's doing great. Yes, and she is defying gravity with that belly, and it's really exciting. No.
And we're back. Defying gravity.
Okay. Anyway, what I mean is, yeah, she's glowing. She's doing good. The baby's doing very, very well, and so yeah, it's going to be imminent. They reckon that probably around the end of next month is when she's due. So the baby's apparently kind of all ready to go though at the moment. So it could be pretty soon. We're all
Yes.
very, very excited.
I think Robert could have been an obstetrician.
Yep.
It's all ready to go.
It's all locked and loaded. Yes.
Locked
Yes.
and loaded.
No names yet. We actually have our names though. I'm being called the Funkle, the fun uncle. So I'm Funkle Robert, and Mum is going to be Grandma Bunny. Bunny is actually it's usually in America and Europe. It's kind of an animal nickname for a grandma. So yeah, that's going to be our little nicknames for her. But no name is yet for the little baby. But we'll see.
I think you managed to do yourself an even deeper hole.
Yeah.
I think I have.
Gravity, that's great.
I think I'd take that as a compliment. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've always wanted my tummy described like that.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Back to koalas, please. Can we? Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yes. We'll now be raising funds for Protect Robert.
Protect Robert.